Imagine this, you're alone, locked in your room, heart pounding like a drum in a storm, tangled in a moment so secret, so raw, you'd rather vanish into thin air than let a soul catch you. The house is dead silent, until it's not. The door explodes open with a bang, and there he stands, my stepbrother, Ethan, eyes wide with shock, laundry basket crashing to the floor like a gunshot in the dark. I was caught, mid-act, hands still under the sheets, no escape, no excuses, just me exposed in the most mortifying, pulse-racing second of my life. And here's the twist that'll make your jaw drop, I didn't care, not then, not now. I'm Lila, and what happened next wasn't just wild, it was a forbidden spark that lit a fire I couldn't put out. Buckle up, because this story's about to drag you into a whirlwind of shame, secrets, and something dangerously thrilling. Don't blink. My name is Lila, and if someone had told me a year ago that my life would turn out this way, I'd have laughed and called them crazy. But here I am, sitting on my bed, staring at the ceiling of my room, thinking about how wild and unexpected things have gotten. Life is funny like that, it throws curveballs at you when you least expect it, and sometimes, those curveballs end up being the best thing that ever happened. I guess it all started when my parents decided I needed a proper education. They're the kind of people who believe in structure and discipline, so when I turned 14, they shipped me off to a boarding school a few towns away. At first, I wasn't thrilled. I mean, who wants to leave their cozy bedroom, their friends, and their mom's home-cooked meals for a place with strict rules and bunk beds? But once I got there, I fell in love with it. The school was huge, with tall brick buildings covered in ivy, a big green field where we played sports, and a library that smelled like old books and secrets. I made friends fast, girls who giggled about silly things and stayed up late, whispering about their crushes. It felt like an adventure, and for the first time, I was free to be me, away from my parents' watchful eyes. Boarding school wasn't just about books and rules, it was a whole new world, one that stretched far beyond the classrooms and the strict schedules. It was a place where friendships were tested, secrets were shared, and I learned things I never would have imagined. Some lessons came from teachers, but the most surprising ones came from the people around me. I was 15 when I first noticed something different about the girls in my dorm. At first, it was just small things, little moments I barely paid attention to. At night, after the lights went out and the teachers finished their patrols, the room would come alive in a way that was different from the daytime. Soft giggles floated through the air, barely loud enough to be heard. Sometimes there was quiet whispering, muffled laughter, and the faint rustling of blankets. At first, I assumed they were just restless, unable to sleep, or maybe sneaking snacks under the covers. I even thought they might be writing secret notes to each other or telling late-night stories, but the more I listened, the more I realized it was something else, something I didn't understand. One night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of the hushed voices, I heard my bunkmate, Jade, whispering to another girl a few beds away. Her voice was barely above a breath, but I caught the words clearly. "You just have to take care of yourself," she said, giggling softly. Take care of herself? My mind raced. Was she sick? Was something wrong? The words made no sense to me, and yet the other girl giggled in response, as if they shared some kind of secret I wasn't part of. I wanted to ask, but I didn't. I just lay there, staring into the darkness, feeling like I was on the outside of something mysterious, something I wasn't sure I was supposed to know. Curiosity got the better of me. I couldn't stop thinking about what Jade had said the night before and the way the other girl had giggled in response. It felt like some secret language that I wasn't a part of, and the more I thought about it, the more I needed to know. The next day, I decided to ask her. Jade wasn't like the other girls. She was bold, fearless, and never seemed to care about rules or what anyone thought of her. She had short, bouncy curls that framed her face and a mischievous grin that made you feel like she was always one step ahead, like she knew something the rest of us didn't. I caught up with her by the lockers, my heart pounding a little as I worked up the courage to ask. "Jade," I said hesitantly, lowering my voice, "what did you mean last night about taking care of yourself?" For a second, she just stared at me, then, out of nowhere, she burst into laughter, loud, uncontrollable laughter that made a few girls nearby glance in our direction. She laughed so hard she nearly dropped her books, clutching her stomach as if I had just told the funniest joke in the world. "Oh, Lila," she gasped, wiping her eyes, still giggling, "you're so innocent." I felt my cheeks grow warm. I wasn't sure if she was teasing me or if I had said something really stupid, But before I could ask again, she leaned in, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "I'll show you tonight," she whispered, her voice laced with mystery. And just like that, my curiosity turned into something else, excitement mixed with a nervous flutter in my chest. What exactly was she going to show me? That night, after the dorm finally fell into silence and the last whispers faded into the darkness, I heard the soft creak of Jade's bunk. A moment later, she climbed down and settled onto my bed, her presence warm and familiar in the cool night air. She leaned in close, her voice barely more than a breath against my ear. "It's something girls do when they feel, lonely or restless," she whispered, her tone full of knowing amusement. "No boyfriend needed." I blinked at her in confusion, my heart picking up speed. The way she spoke, so casual, like it was just another bedtime story, made me nervous but also intrigued. She explained it in a way that made my cheeks burn with embarrassment. Her words were careful but deliberate, like she was letting me in on some great, unspoken secret. She told me how some girls had figured out ways to make themselves feel good, all on their own, no one else required. The idea sounded strange, maybe even a little wrong, like something we weren't supposed to talk about, and yet the way Jade described it, with a spark in her eyes and that playful, mischievous grin, made me curious. "Try it," she urged, nudging me lightly. "You'll see why we all do it." I hesitated, my mind racing with questions I wasn't sure how to ask. Part of me wanted to brush it off, to pretend I wasn't interested, but deep down, I knew that after tonight, I wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it. I didn't try it right away. For days, I wrestled with the idea in my head. What if someone found out? What if it was weird? But one night, when the dorm was quiet and the moon was shining through the window, I decided to give it a shot. I was nervous, my heart pounding like I was about to get caught stealing cookies from the kitchen, but once I figured it out, oh my goodness, it was like discovering a hidden treasure chest in my own body. I felt alive, free, like I'd unlocked a secret door to a part of me I didn't even know existed. From that night on, I didn't stop. It became my little escape, my way of feeling good whenever I wanted, boyfriend or no boyfriend. Time at school moved faster than I ever expected. What started as nervous, awkward days soon melted into a familiar rhythm. Classes in the morning, stolen laughter with my friends in the evenings, and quiet, secret moments late at night when the dorm was still. Months turned into years, and before I knew it, I had settled into my routine. Days were filled with textbooks and whispered gossip, while nights brought hushed giggles under the covers, and in between it all, I had my private time, those moments that belonged only to me. At one point, I even had a boyfriend. His name was Miles, a shy, soft-spoken boy with warm eyes and a way of making me feel special. He would write me sweet notes on torn-out notebook paper, slipping them into my bag when no one was looking. On movie nights, he would hold my hand under the dim lights, his fingers laced with mine like a quiet promise. I liked him. He was kind, gentle, and always knew the right words to say, but even with Miles in my life, my secret moments never stopped. It wasn't that I didn't care about him. I did. He was adorable in that boyish, innocent way, but what I had discovered late at night, in the stillness of my own space, was different. It was mine, something I controlled, something no one else could touch or change, and no matter what happened, no one could take that away from me. Then came the holidays. School closed for a few weeks, and I had to go back home. I wasn't upset about it. Home meant my soft, comfy bed, my mom's delicious jollof rice, and no strict curfew, but still, a part of me would miss the freedom of the dorms. No one telling me to wake up early on weekends, no one reminding me to wash the dishes before bed, just me and my friends doing whatever we wanted. My parents' house was big, with old wooden floors that creaked under every step and a small garden in the back where I used to chase butterflies when I was little. It had always been just me, my mom, and my dad until my dad remarried when I was 10. That's when Ethan became part of the family. Ethan was my stepbrother, 2 years older than me, making him 18 now. He had this quiet way about him, like he was always deep in thought but never let anyone in on what was going on in his head. He was tall, with messy brown hair that never stayed in place, no matter how much he tried to fix it. We weren't exactly best friends, but we got along well enough. Sometimes he teased me, like when I burned toast and set off the smoke alarm or when I tripped over the dog and nearly knocked over the dining table. But mostly he kept to himself, either in his room with his headphones on or out in the garden, lying on the grass and staring up at the sky. Even though we weren't that close, there was something about being home again that made me wonder if things would be different this time, if maybe, just maybe, Ethan and I would actually talk. Not just about little things, but about real things. The first few days at home felt normal. I slept in late, watched TV for hours, and helped my mom in the kitchen whenever she needed an extra pair of hands. It was nice, comforting even, being back in my own space with the familiar smells of home, freshly baked bread, my mom's perfume, the faint scent of rain drifting in through the open windows. But by the third day, I started feeling that itch, the one I had gotten so used to scratching at school, that restless feeling, the need for a little escape, a small moment just for myself. I tried to ignore it, pushing it to the back of my mind, but the more I avoided it, the stronger it became. So, that afternoon, when my parents left for shopping and Ethan was supposed to be at his friend's house, I decided it was time. I locked my bedroom door, climbed into bed, and let myself sink into the warmth of my blankets. The house was completely still, except for the soft chirping of birds outside and the low hum of the fridge running in the kitchen downstairs. Perfect. I closed my eyes and let my hands wander the way I had done 100 times before. It was familiar, comforting, like sinking into a warm bath after a long, exhausting day. Every worry, every little stress melted away as I gave into the moment, my body relaxing, my mind drifting to that peaceful place where nothing else mattered. The house was silent. The only sounds came from the gentle rustling of the leaves outside and the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs. I felt weightless, lost in the sensation, my breathing growing heavier, my heartbeat quickening. I was so deep in it that I didn't hear the soft shuffle of footsteps in the hallway. I didn't hear the door turning, didn't even notice the quiet creak of the floorboard just outside my room. And then bam, the door swung open so fast it crashed against the wall, jolting me out of my bliss like a bucket of ice-cold water. My eyes flew open, and there he was, Ethan, standing in the doorway, frozen in place, a laundry basket clutched in his hands like it was the only thing keeping him from bolting. His eyes were wide, his face caught somewhere between horror and disbelief, like he'd just seen a ghost, or maybe something even worse. And in that split second, before either of us could move, speak, or even breathe, one thing was painfully clear: I was caught. I froze, my heart stopped, my hands still buried under the blanket, and a wave of heat rushed to my face so fast I thought I might actually pass out. Oh no, no, this couldn't be happening, not like this, not with him. Ethan, my stepbrother, had just caught me in the middle of the act, a situation so embarrassing, so utterly humiliating, that my brain refused to fully accept it. Maybe this was a dream, maybe I'd wake up in a few seconds and laugh it off, but no, this was real, painfully, horribly real. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the mattress, sink into the floor, evaporate into thin air. Anything to escape the mortifying reality of the moment. My breath hitched as I yanked the blanket up to my chin, gripping it like it was my only lifeline. My mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, but no words came out. I was trapped, caught between the need to say something, anything, and the sheer horror of what had just happened. Ethan didn't say a word at first. He just stood there, his eyes wide, his face frozen in an unreadable expression. The laundry basket dangled from his hands, his fingers clenched so tight around the handles that his knuckles turned white. I could almost see the gears in his head turning, trying to process what he had just walked in on, and then, to my absolute horror, the basket slipped from his grip and crashed onto the floor. A pair of my socks tumbled out, landing right between us like some kind of awful, mocking symbol of my shame. Great, just great. As if getting caught wasn't bad enough, now he'd seen me and my dirty laundry. He stammered, rubbing the back of his neck. His face was turning red too, which somehow made me feel a tiny bit less alone in my embarrassment. I didn't know you were. I thought you were napping or something. Napping? Napping? Did I look like I was napping? I wanted to scream, but my voice was still hiding somewhere deep inside me. I just stared at him, praying he'd turn around and leave so I could bury myself under the bed forever, but he didn't leave. Instead, he took a step closer, slowly like he was approaching a wild animal, and said something I never expected. Hey Lila, it's okay. Don't freak out, okay? 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 How was this okay? My stepbrother had just caught me doing something so private, so personal, that I hadn't even told my closest friends about it. I pulled the blanket tighter around me, my mind racing. Was he going to tell Mom and Dad? Was he going to laugh about it with his friends? I could already hear the teasing, "Hey Lila, how's your nap going?" But then he sat down on the edge of my bed, and his voice got softer. "Look, I'm serious. It's normal. People do it all the time. You don't have to be embarrassed." I blinked at him. Normal? Did he just say it was normal? I wasn't sure if he was trying to make me feel better or if he actually meant it, but either way it threw me off. I finally found my voice, though it came out small and shaky. "You're not grossed out?" He let out a short, nervous laugh, rubbing the back of his neck like he wasn't sure what to do with his hands. "No way," he muttered, shaking his head. "I mean, it's not like I haven't, you know." His voice trailed off, his gaze dropping to the floor, and for a moment, his words just hung in the air between us. "Wait." I blinked at him, my brain scrambling to catch up. Ethan, my quiet, laid-back stepbrother, the one who always seemed so unbothered by everything. He did it too? The realization hit me like a jolt, making my mind short-circuit for a second. We sat there in awkward silence, neither of us knowing what to say. The air between us felt heavier, charged with something I couldn't quite name. I wanted to speak, to fill the strange gap that had opened up between us. "Thanks for not judging me." "Sorry you had to see that," I thought, but before I could figure out the right words, Ethan looked up, his brown eyes meeting mine. There was something almost hesitant in his expression, like he wasn't sure if he should say what he was about to say. "If you ever, need help or anything," he murmured, his voice lower now, "I'm here." My breath caught for just a second. I wasn't sure what surprised me more, his offer or the fact that part of me actually considered it. Help? Help? My jaw dropped. Was he seriously offering what I thought he was offering? I stared at him, trying to read his face. He didn't look like he was joking. There was something earnest in his expression, something that made my stomach flip in a way I didn't expect. "I mean," he added quickly, his cheeks going pink again, "not that you need it or anything. You seemed, fine on your own, but you know if you wanted." From that day on, everything shifted between us. Not in a way that would raise suspicion. Mom and Dad remained blissfully unaware, but in the quiet, unspoken moments that only we noticed. A lingering glance across the dinner table where his eyes would meet mine just a second too long, the accidental brush of his fingers against my skin when we passed in the hallway, leaving a trail of warmth that stayed long after he was gone. We never spoke about it outright, but words weren't necessary. It was there in the way he hesitated before leaving a room, in the way I found myself holding my breath whenever he came close. It was our secret, a world built just for the two of us, hidden in plain sight, and strangely, I didn't mind. In fact, I lived for those stolen moments, the thrill of something unspoken but undeniably real. Looking back, I still can't believe how it all started, with me getting caught in the most embarrassing moment of my life. At the time, I wanted the ground to swallow me whole, to disappear before anyone could burn the memory into their minds forever, but now? Now I wouldn't change a single thing. Life is funny like that, isn't it? The moments we dread, the ones that make us cringe and swear we'll never recover, sometimes turn into the best things that ever happened to us. For me, that moment led to Ethan. I remember the way it all unfolded, the way time seemed to slow, stretching out each agonizing second as the heat crept up my neck and my heart pounded so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. My hands trembled, my breath hitched, and humiliation wrapped around me like a suffocating cloak. The mortified expression on my face must have been painfully obvious, and for a fleeting moment, I considered running, disappearing into the ground, or rewinding time to erase my mistake. I was certain I had ruined everything, that this moment, this awful, soul-crushing moment, would define me forever. The whispers, the sideways glances, the laughter I was bracing for would follow me wherever I went. I was convinced that nothing could salvage my dignity, that Ethan would see me as nothing more than a walking disaster, someone to avoid, someone to forget. But instead of disaster, something unexpected happened, something I never saw coming. Ethan didn't laugh, he didn't roll his eyes or turn away in embarrassment for me. He didn't whisper to his friends or smirk at my misfortune. Instead he met my gaze, steady, unwavering, and to my utter disbelief kind. There was no pity in his eyes, no amusement at my suffering, just something warm, understanding. And then he did something even more shocking. He stayed. In that moment, everything changed. My mortification, my certainty that I had ruined it all, slowly gave way to something new, something fragile yet powerful, a connection I hadn't expected, a shift in the air between us. Because Ethan had seen me at my absolute worst, and yet he chose to stay. So, what do you think? Could you handle getting caught like that? Or would you just melt into the floor? Drop your wildest, most cringeworthy stories in the comments. I'm dying to hear them, and I read every single one. If this tale of shame and secrets got your heart racing, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next crazy twist I've got coming. You guys are the heartbeat of this channel. Your reactions, your stories, your energy keep me going. Let's keep the vibes alive. See you in the next one.